things that are happening every single day that are actually getting pretty exciting. So I just want to, and I took a little play on one of the cartoons. I hope nobody takes offense to it. It was in the paper the other day. But I clearly want you to know, we clearly believe independence needs Coffeyville, and Coffeyville needs independence, okay? And really, we are better together. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark and let him kind of talk about the future and where we're going.
Thanks, Kim. Morning, everybody. I really like how you said better together. I think whether we're talking about our surgeons in the OR with our anesthesia team and our nurses and our surgery techs and our EVS crews helping complete a terminal clean, or our volunteers and auxiliaries working alongside our staffs, raising funds for new equipment, I always believe that we're better together and that everybody matters. I do want to thank the Chamber and Lisa. It's nice to have another Iowa Hawkeye fan in town. Appreciate that. But thanks for the opportunity to come here today. Mercy for the invite. I'd also like to thank my Board of Trustees, Monty, Neil, Jeff, Mike, others who are here that I haven't seen yet, for the foresight, who have been working on this a lot longer than I have, but I'm very blessed. If it's okay, I'll share a few brief highlights of CRMC that you may not know, and then I'd like to spend just a few minutes talking about where I'm from, the work I've done, and why I'm so excited about the future of healthcare here. Coffeyville Regional Medical Center is a licensed 88-bed, not-for-profit regional medical center established in 1949. We're Joint Commission accredited, and our mission is to serve our patients and their families with high-quality health care. We currently participate in the National Partnership for Patient Safety, which for us is job one. It's been 486 days since our last catheter-associated urinary tract infection, thanks to our focus on catheter use and indication. It's been over 700 days since our last abdominal surgical site infection. Coffeyville Regional Medical Center reduced patient falls with injury by nearly 75% since 2012. We maintain a zero rate, 0%, for central line bloodstream infections. Coffeyville Regional Medical Center, with the help of our OB/GYN medical staff, established a no early elective delivery policy recently between 37 and 39 weeks of gestation without any medical indication to do so. That led us to be recognized as a Kansas High Five for Moms and Babies facility. Now remember, I'm most recently coming from Kansas City, and I can tell you that those are not statistics and outcomes that very many other hospitals, whether they're small, whether they're large, rural, urban, not many of them can tell you that. Bigger is not always better, as you guys know. However, our facility has undergone significant expansion and renovation over the years to meet the medical needs of our community. We have a very strong balance sheet, and today, Coffeyville Regional Medical Center provides comprehensive medical care to more than 45,000 unique patients annually. We're aggressively engaged with the war on cancer. I'm confident someday we're going to win it. Coffeyville Regional Medical Center offers cancer treatment for over 30 years. Our Tapman Cancer Center was accredited by the Commission on Cancer of the American College of Surgeons back in 1992, and most recently, an additional $10.5 million investment was made in 2011 with an 18,500 square foot Marquette Radiation Oncology Center. My prayers are with everyone here fighting this disease with your families. I'm excited to learn about all the great clinical trials going on here in Independence. Keep fighting and let us know how we can help make your battle just a little bit easier for you. So originally, I'm from a small, hardworking river town, southeast Iowa, town of 10,000, Keokuk, right along the Mississippi River. Great hospital, great physicians, great schools, great teachers, great coaches, great churches, successful small business operators and entrepreneurs, large manufacturers and industry, and as a whole, a community that probably has to work twice as hard to maintain all of those great things. Yeah, I've been in Southeast Kansas all 3 weeks. I feel like I'm at home already. It's great to be here. I'm here for the long haul. We're going to get this right, and appreciate the opportunity to be here. I've spent the past 15 years at the highest levels of health system administration and governance, as mentioned earlier, for a CEO of a top 100 community hospital and national demonstration project for patient-centered medical homes. I've successfully led a turnaround situation, and I can tell you this is not a turnaround situation. It's an opportunity to build off of the strengths of two proud organizations with great histories to write a new chapter together that positions us both for the future of medicine. I completed my doctoral dissertation in rural New Mexico in one of the most economically challenged counties in the nation, where hospitals there are at risk for closure. I interviewed hospital CEOs, Chamber of Commerce executive directors, county executives, economic development officials, community foundation CEOs, school superintendents, and many, many others. very much like a room just like this. I asked them all, how does the hospital best benefit your county? Their answers are not going to surprise you. Number one, they said emergency coverage. Minutes matter. Strokes, heart attacks, kids that fall off their bikes and fracture their arms. We worry about health care here without an emergency room. Number two, jobs. The hospital is an integral part of our economy. We can't afford to lose them. Number three, our hospital makes our community more attractive to live in, to retire to attract new business and expand existing ones. Those are the things, in short, that matter in rural New Mexico, but I believe they matter all over rural America. And I bet these things matter to you, and I want you to know that they matter to me. This has been my life's work, and as mentioned earlier, it's a blessing to be here. I believe we can build something very special together that we all will be proud of. Before turning it over to Neil, I've been asked to share a little bit with you a preliminary conceptual model of what the future of healthcare could look like here. Before I do, I wanted to share with you a couple quick first impressions of the Mercy Hospital and the Independence community. I've learned over the years that you can learn a lot about a facility when you first walk in it. And I can tell you when I first walked in Mercy Hospital here in Independence, it was incredibly clean. And that tells me one thing. That tells me that there's a lot of pride in the work that goes on here. The second thing, as I walked out after my tour and visiting with everyone, I couldn't help but think, what great people are here. Now, my first impressions of Independence, I gotta be honest, were a little different. One night a couple weeks ago, it feels like 2 years ago, but I guess it's 2 weeks ago. After work, my CFO, Dean, and I decided to take a quick trip to Independence, we're new to town, to tour the Mercy Fitness for Life Center. We figured we could find it on our own, but after driving around town for 10 minutes, and my wife's not here, and if you tell her this, she'll never believe you, but I stopped and asked for directions. All right, so we pull into the gas station, and out come two guys in shirts and ties and briefcases, asking for directions on how to get to the fitness center. So the lady behind the counter kind of gave me that, suspicious eye, and do you guys work for the government? And now there's a nice high school kid nearby shopping in the aisle, and he kindly offered, oh, sure, hey, it's just a few blocks away. It's down the road, keep going, can't miss it. It's a great facility. I work out there all the time. You'll love it. So this first experience and interaction in Independence tells me a couple things. Number one, you guys are raising great kids. And number two, if I was you, I'd be naturally suspicious of a couple new guys to town in suits, But I think that fitness center fits the healthcare model of the future. And I'll advance the slide if I get this to work. Can I borrow this? This work? Keep talking? Hey, all right, very good. I can't take credit for this model. This is from SG2, healthcare consulting firm out of Chicago. But they talk about the system of care that's evolving nationally. This big box is community-based care. So the fitness center here in town, wellness and fitness. Here's the piece. You've got everybody living here at home. You've got wellness and fitness centers. You've got retail pharmacies. You have physician clinics for primary health care, for specialty care and outreach clinics, so you can have health care delivered close to home. Diagnostic imaging centers, infusion centers, dialysis, cancer treatments, ambulatory procedure centers. And these are the things that cost the system less as a whole. And we believe healthcare is delivered best close to home. Now this sometimes funnels into what they call this box in the upper right-hand corner, acute care. That might be inpatient unit. And as the future of medicine, 5 or 6 patients laying in a hospital bed on a med-surg unit. And across the country, there are questions being asked like this in all communities, including my hometown of Keokuk, Iowa. They recently got a $5 million loan from the governor of Iowa to help pay some bills just to keep open. But the future is unsustainable because we just can't afford to do that. The acute care box is the most expensive box. Now, if we do all these things right, and we're doing a lot of these things right, and we're going to keep doing them better, when you look at the healthcare outcomes, the county health rankings, and all the different things that are out there that we need to be working on to prevent unnecessary admissions, to prevent unnecessary trips to the emergency room. When we do this box right, there's going to be a natural decrease in admissions. So hospitals have to figure out how to leverage their economies of scale to make sure that we have some coverage for those times that we need inpatient care. So the future of hospitals is being engaged in community-based activities, looking at community health needs assessments, making sure we're looking upstream, and we'll have emergency rooms, we'll have labs, we'll be doing research. There'll be a lot of different activities the hospital will be doing but it'll just be doing it differently and coordinating differently. We'll be working outside of the walls of the institution just as much as we're working inside the walls. Now, when you get downstream and you start talking about recovery and rehab care, which is something that here in Montgomery County, we do an amazing job. You've got hospice, home health, survivorship, long-term care units, senior housing, independent living, outpatient rehab units, and again, back at home. Some hospitals across the country are trying out these hospital-at-home models. These are just concepts that, again, people rest best, they heal best when they're closer in their home environments. So there's a natural decrease, again, away from inpatient utilization. So we have to figure out a way when we need inpatient care to partner with others that can provide it. But I think all the pieces in the community health care box and this recovery and rehab care box, there's going to be some of those things in that acute model that we're going to be able to do here in Montgomery County in Independence. I think someday it's going to be recognized from a reimbursement perspective, whether that be Medicare, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and others. It's going to be a failure of the system to end up being admitted to the hospital. I truly believe that. But until that day comes, we are a volume-based business, and we have to figure out a way to maximize our efficiencies. So we want to be the hospital of first choice instead of the hospital of last resort, and we need everybody's support in doing that. I'm reminded every time over the past few weeks that I come up here, there's some big decisions and some tough decisions that have to be made in the best long-term interests of our hospitals. And other tough decisions I face when I come to town really pale in comparison, but to be honest, I struggle with it. I've got to decide if I'm going to get a hamburger at Uncle Jack's or if I'm going to get a piece of pizza at Big Cheese. And I think, wouldn't it be great to take the strengths of both and create an Uncle Jack's signature line hamburger pizza? With those homemade potato chips crumbled on top. I think collaboration is the future. I'd like to introduce my board chair, Neil Barkley, who's a class act and has been an incredible support to me as I've transitioned into my new role. Thank you very much.
I'm going the wrong way. There we are. Well, thanks, Mark, and thanks, Lisa, for the introduction. And I appreciate all the, Mark told you the exciting stuff. I'm going to tell you some boring things, but I think they're important things. And I became board chairman the first of this year, and I've been involved in the hospital. I was on the foundation for a number of years, and I was on the board for a couple of years prior to becoming board chairman. And we live in exciting times. They're interesting times as well. I can't tell you how happy I am to have Mark here. Mark's got some dynamic leadership abilities, and as you heard, he's got a wonderful vision for our future. One of the things about the Coffeyville Regional Medical Center is our board makeup, and we're really the buildings are owned by the city of Coffeyville, and so the city of Coffeyville commissioners appoint trustees, and those trustees are in charge of the building, are in charge of the assets, the financial assets that are there. They in turn then select board members. And I'm a board member. And as you heard in my bio, I don't live in Coffeyville. We don't have to live in Coffeyville. In fact, we look at looking at this proposed merger or combination, we would reach out to have more board members, probably add some board members, and certainly include more what I would call at-large members from other communities, Independence, in Elk City like myself, I guess. But we want this merged business to have input from all aspects so that we understand what the needs are and that the governance is done right. So that's something our board talked about early on. It's like, well, that makes sense. We need to be able to be inclusive, or that we include everyone in that. And Kim went through how we got here, how we engaged in discussions, but it seemed a natural from the beginning. And as they've already talked about, we're already doing things together. I mean, it makes sense now that as we move forward, it makes sense to do that. Kim talked about the financial aspects of the hospital, and all hospitals are struggling. That is not a secret, and particularly rural hospitals everywhere. And the key to making it work better is to get a larger population, get some of those volumes, figure out if you have enough people, you can make things work better. CRMC is in a good financial position. We have good cash flow, but we're struggling with that bottom line and to be able to make a profit. But we do have good cash flow. We've got good reserves. We feel that if we structure this right, we can make it happen and make it happen financially, and it has to work financially. You know, there is no sense in taking on other responsibilities just to see everything fail. So it is certainly our vision to make it successful. In that endeavor, we've hired a CPA firm that consults in medical care. I mean, their specialty is looking at hospitals, hospital mergers, physician clinics, and all those aspects. And they are sweating the details. They are looking at you know, if we do this service line, how do we envision that? What will our cost structure be? What will our income structure be? Is this sustainable? So we're looking at all those things. And they're not all bottom line things. I mean, every hospital in the nation loses money in the ER. But it's one of those essential services you have to have. And so that is core to what we do. Mark talked about it, and I always come back to, you know, when you look at board decisions, you know, what do you do? How do you do things? You come back to your mission statement. And our mission is to provide the highest quality health care to our patients and their families. And if we don't do that, we didn't do it right. The current status of, you know, again, the distribution areas. We're talking about different service lines. Before I go to that, though, one of the other things that came up really early in our board discussion was, you know, we are CRMC. That doesn't make sense if we expand out and include independents. And so Mark's already got a list. People give him suggestions about a new name, and so he's keeping a list, and I'm sure there'll be some interesting opportunities there. I recently toured Mercy's building, some of the older buildings in more detail. There's a cornerstone there that says Montgomery County Hospital. And I don't remember the date that's on that, but you know, our roots go back a long way. When? 1910. 1910, okay. So our combined roots go back a long way. I think there's a naming opportunity that will reflect our new mission or our new scope. Nope, I'm going the wrong way again. Some of the, and when you talk about hospitals and the service lines, we've been looking at these things. Emergency services, observation beds, outpatient services, and observation beds, and that's something that, you know, I had to kind of understand what that is, but oftentimes someone that comes into the ER is sick. They're not sick enough to be admitted, but you don't want to just send them home, so they observe them. And the new healthcare laws say, well, you can do that for 24 hours. So these observation beds are important in any hospital setting that you have an emergency room. Outpatient services, and that can be everything from, you know, just all those kinds of things that you'd come in one day, leave the same day. Might even be minor surgeries. Outpatient imaging, both facilities have great imaging equipment. I think that's some of the strengths that we have. Obviously therapy to the rehab sorts of things, home health and hospice, cancer services, the primary care clinics. That's another area that I'm excited about is the primary care clinics. Both communities have a difficult time bringing in physicians, you know, attracting physicians to the area. Together, I think we have not only larger numbers of patients that we can have so the physicians can feel like they really do have a position here and they can make a living here. But it also, that feeds into the hospital setting. If there is someone that needs a surgery or needs some more specialized care, that feeds into it. Mercy has a really nice physician clinic here, and they do a lot of great work, and we would hope to continue that. Rotating specialists. The other thing about being larger is there's a critical mass now that you can bring in more cardiologists more often. You can bring in specialists more frequently. In fact, you may be able to attract certain specialists that would make their living here. So those things are exciting as you grow the community, grow the number of people we look at. Lab, pharmacy, all very necessary things that are part of the healthcare system. We're looking at all this to determine if it's financially makes sense. And what I'm seeing preliminarily, there's a lot of good financial sense with what we can do together. So I told you the boring stuff. I don't know if I've got anything else here. Did I cover everything? Yeah, again, when the board first started talking about this, we were excited about the opportunity. I feel, as I said, I live out by Elk City. I drive through Independence all the time. I do a good share of my shopping here. I know many of the people in the room that I've met over the years for a variety of reasons, and I think I speak for the rest of the board that we welcome the opportunity to become better engaged with the folks of Independence. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Neil, thank you. Mark, thank you very much, and welcome, Mark, to the community. We're really glad to have you here. It's about 8:30. At this point, we want to open it up for questions. I want to make sure that we have plenty of time. We are open for any questions you might have on your mind. Don't hesitate. Don't worry about the severity or significance of the question. We'll try to give you the answer that we think is best. So let me open it up. Any questions, concerns? Yes, ma'am.
I think it was the slide before this, there was an item about changing governance.
Yeah. So let me talk a little bit about that. Yeah, the question is, there was a slide. Hang on just a second. You want to see if you can. Okay. So when we talk about governance, one thing that's going to be important is you bring these two organizations back, or bring them together. And so all of a sudden, you've got part of the campus is going to be in Independence, part of the campus is going to be in Coffeyville. And both Independence and Coffeyville, where in the past you may have thought about your health care as it relates to each of your own communities. This new vision actually starts saying, how do we start looking at more of a regional or Southeast Kansas health network and how we provide those services? So then all of a sudden, when you start talking about a board over this entity, you want to make sure that the composition of that board is representative of all of those various communities. So I think what Neil's saying there is that in the past, where all of those board members may have been individuals from Coffeyville, even though he lives in Elk County, or in Elk, in the future, in looking at that composition, if this is going to, the city of Independence, as this comes together, is going to have to feel like their needs are being met clinically, and they're going to have to feel like they have a say-so in how this healthcare system continues to move forward. So now as you compose that board, you got to make sure that you got representatives from Independence. You got to make sure that you have other individuals from outside either Coffeyville or Independence in the county, so that all of a sudden, as that board's trying to set direction in the future, everybody feels that their needs are being met. Does that make sense? So it really is talking about the composition of the board of this new entity to make sure that it's being represented appropriately and everybody's needs are being met. That's what it's about. If I say anything that you guys...
No, that's great. And if I could just piggyback on that, above governance, it's important for charitable nonprofit hospitals, according to the Affordable Care Act, to be engaged in what they call community health needs assessments. And these are the opportunities where we have to go out into our communities. So we're going to be in Deering, we're going to be in Caney, we're going to be in Independence, we're going to be in Coffeyville. We're going to be having town hall forums much like this,
Right.
where we're getting feedback from our communities that we're responsible for. It's part of our charitable mission to get that feedback that we share with the board. And then we're going to have to come up with a plan of action to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the community. And the government's holding us accountable to that. We're going to be holding ourselves accountable to that. So there's many opportunities to include feedback and participation in the communities, and we need your help to make sure that we're aligning for the future.
Another question. Yes, ma'am.
It seems as if we've always had difficulty recruiting and retaining
Yes.
physicians here in Independence. And during this year that of the discernment process. We've
Right.
lost several.
Absolutely.
I'm just wondering, under this new scenario, what kind of a timeline are you looking at? How long do you think it would be before there would be
Yeah.
an effort to get some new doctors?
Yeah, I'm not going to address because these are guys who are going to be leading this. But what I will say is that recruitment and retention of physicians and co-worker, okay, has been a challenge, okay? And when you look at just independents, you know, we've had a little bit of a revolving door on doctors. That is a serious problem. Let me tell you, when you start looking at this map, and number 2 is Coffeyville, and number 1 is Independence, and, you know, I'm not talking from a competitive situation. When I'm talking about, all of a sudden, they do 1,800 discharges a year. We do about 1,100. All of a sudden, you're almost going to double the size of the organization. All of a sudden, you're going to be doing 19 or 20,000 ER visits instead of 8,000 apiece. All of a sudden, we're doing 400 deliveries instead of 200 deliveries. And all of a sudden, you now have a large enough mass of population that you're now going to be able to recruit and retain an orthopedic surgeon, a cardiologist, because now you're going to have the volume base necessary to feed them. You got to have a patient base significant enough to feed those physicians and make sure that they're going to be able to have a livelihood.